Hey everybody! In today's video, I'm going to show you how I artificially roughed up and dirtied up my jacket for my Lara Croft cosplay. I was hoping to have this video up sooner. The whole process took me a little bit longer than I thought it would. And by that, I mean a lot longer. A lot of sanding went into this. I've been a little MIA from this channel recently. Part of that is because I have been preoccupied by all the different aspects of this cosplay that I still have yet to do. So far, we got the boots done. Now I have the jacket. I have just about all the other pieces I need. That I still need to add some effects to, but I think these last few things won't take up as much time as these did. I'm hoping to show you guys the pickaxe process next week. We're almost done painting it and then we just have to assemble it. I have to add a little more detail to it. Basically, from this point, I have 1 month until C2E2 and I still have a lot to do. So from now until then, pretty much all my videos are going to be the cosplay pieces. I am already running behind. I was hoping to have a few more pieces done by now and a few more videos up, but you know, life happens and unfortunately my full-time job is not making videos and making cosplay. Maybe someday, but right now that is not the case. I'm really excited about all of it, and especially after seeing how this jacket turned out, I'm even more excited because I think this thing's really gonna come together. So, without going on too much, I'm just gonna jump into it and show you the whole process of how I took this, I think the name of the jacket, it's called like an anorak jacket or something. I don't know how to pronounce it. Took this plain like army hooded jacket from Amazon and distressed and added a lot of like dirt and blood effects on my own. I'm just gonna show you how I did it, then show you the finished product at the end. Enough blabbing, let's just jump right in. Okay, so the jacket I found actually has a lot of buttons on it all the way down the front and on all the pockets, and there's a big zipper and stuff. Laura's jacket doesn't have that in the game, but this jacket had everything else in it that I was looking for. So I was like, okay, we're gonna have this one stylistic difference. So what I tried to do was sand all the buttons down to diminish some of the shine, and that didn't really work that well. I sprayed all the buttons and zippers with this matte like sealant spray, like a finishing spray to help take off some of the shine. Getting them as unshiny as possible was what I needed. The next thing I did was sand over all the seams. I started on the front pockets. So basically, like I did on the boots, any seam that was kind of like sticking out or there was an edge to it, I sanded all those first because those were the easiest to rough up. The sanding effect did a really good job, obviously making it look rough, like exposing a lot of fibers and kind of giving it that like faded color. So yeah, I did that first over both the front pockets and all the exposed seams to really just add as much rough edges as I could. My goal was to make it look like this jacket had been worn on an adventure through the mountains and caves and the forests and fallen off cliffs and all that jazz. I didn't want there to be any smooth edges whatsoever. So yeah, I just took that sandpaper and I worked all those seams. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but you can see that it definitely got a good faded color. So I started on the front of the jacket, got all the seams, all the pockets, got the edges on the bottom of the jacket, and then I kind of just went into like all the middle parts, so basically everything that wasn't a seam, and sanded those the best I could. That honestly was probably the hardest part because there wasn't any like edges sticking up to catch, for fibers to catch the sandpaper really well. Work the flat parts a lot harder than the seams to get that like same faded fibery look on them. It definitely helped a lot, so I did that everywhere, and I think it overall gave it definitely a good like just kind of worn out look. Every time I got like a really little hole or something from the sandpaper catching like one edge too much, it worked. So there weren't that many mistakes I could make in this process because I wanted it to look really roughed up, so if I got some little holes in there, that was just even better. So yeah, basically sanded the crap out of all the edges, top to bottom, all the flat areas, just a lot of sanding. This took me a few days to do, and definitely felt the burn in my arm. Got a good arm workout in one arm. So this was one feature on the jacket that was really important to me, which is kind of one of the things why I was like okay with having all the buttons and stuff. On Laura's jacket, she has the hood, those front pockets, and these little straps on her shoulders, which kind of gave it more of a military look. May not really be that noticeable, but I really studied that jacket she had, and I scoured the web, the internet, for the perfect jacket, and there were some that didn't have little shoulder straps, but they didn't have buttons. Then I found this one, and it wasn't too expensive, and it had pretty much everything I wanted, minus having buttons, but it worked for me, so... I didn't really show it earlier, but I really sanded the bottom seam as much as I could because I wanted the bottom of the jacket and the end of the sleeves to look extra roughed up because those are parts I would assume would get a lot of wear and tear. So I spent a good amount of time really trying to rough up the bottom and actually purposefully getting some little holes in there and whatnot. Please excuse my awkward foot. This jacket was like very flimsy, so I had to really like pin down the little sections that I was sanding because it would just move all over the place. Okay, so this might look a little weird. Again, please ignore my really awkward foot. To get the like very edge of the bottom of the jacket, I pulled the little section I wanted to sand as tight as I could and pulled it up so that I could kind of sand like horizontally on it to, you know, get kind of under it too. Okay, so this next thing I did was after I had gotten everything thoroughly sanded and roughed up, I actually cut some really small slits along the whole bottom of the jacket, front and back, and then I sanded in between all of them as best I could to make it look extra frilly and kind of torn up. I definitely wanted it to look a little more roughed up than just, you know, kind of scratched up, so. So this next thing I did, I wasn't sure how well it was gonna work, and you will see that it really doesn't do too much, but I tried soaking the bottom and the edges of the sleeves in black tea. Another option you can do is coffee, but I didn't want my jacket to smell like coffee forever. So I tried using black tea. This is a method you can use to add some like artificial like aging color or like kind of make things look dirtier. The reason why it didn't really take with my jacket is because my jacket's already a dark green and it does stain, but it's not that dark. And I think even if I used coffee, it really wouldn't have made that much of a difference. I think this works better for lighter fabrics. I am glad that I tried it though, because when it was dry, you could notice that it looked like, you know, these edges I soaked, like there were some like water lines, so it looked like it had been wet, and I think it did kind of stain all those like sanded frills and edges, because as you can tell, when that fabric gets sanded, it turns into this like kind of whitish light grayish color. So staining those, I think it did help a little bit to give everything a more greenish tone. Wasn't a huge difference, but I think it helped a little bit, so I don't regret it. The next thing I did was use a little makeup wedge sponge and some really cheap eyeshadow and just dirtied up, again, the bottom, front, bottom, back, and my sleeves. I used a few different variations of brown, but basically, yeah, just dipped it in the eyeshadow and just rubbed it all over. And I think it did a really good job of giving it a nice kind of like dry mud effect. I kind of was going for the effect that, you know, my jacket had been wet and gotten dirty and then dried, so it looks all like crusty and dirty. And I think I got a good effect from all the eyeshadow. I also had previously worn out the elbows on the sleeves, because I figure, you know, climbing rocks and stuff, your elbows are gonna rub on things and you're gonna get holes in your jacket. So I roughed those up with sandpaper really good, and then I also went over those with the eyeshadow to make it look a little extra dirty in those patches. Got brown smudges all over everything, kind of went over the edges again. I didn't get them as saturated as I did on the bottom, or like the bottom edges and sleeves, but I wanted this thing to look kind of overall dirty, so since it works so well on the bottom edges and everything, I just kind of went over and kind of like sporadically, randomly, just kind of smudged all over the place. You'll see in the end of the video, but after seeing the finished product, I think I can make it just a little more dirty. So who would have known, but brown eyeshadow makes a really good fake dirt smudge. I'm sure there's other things you can use or actual makeup tools, but that's what I had. Okay, so the last part, which was honestly probably my favorite part of this whole thing, and it was the shortest part of the whole process, was the fake blood. So what I did for this is I took a red and a black acrylic paint and I mixed a teeny bit of black in the red to make a really dark maroonish kind of color, and then I thinned it with several drops of water, and I painted this over this little cut in the top of the sleeve to give the effect that I had been either stabbed or cut by something. My method really was just get the blood all around the hole, and then, you know, add a little bit of spotting. I was just kind of imagining, like, if I had been bloody there, what that hole would look like. Same for some small holes I had on the elbow. But it's really important to have pretty thin down paint, because if you just paint with thick acrylic paint on the fabric, when it dries, like, it's gonna look like paint. I think it would stay more on the surface. Having that water thin in there, it helps the jacket, or it helped the fabric absorb it more, which I think made it look more realistic. So, and then what I did on the other sleeve, I was taking some creative liberties and imagine what it would look like if I had gotten a really bloody nose and like used my sleeve to wipe my nose or something like that. Basically, I just wanted this thing to be bloody, so... The last thing I did, again, I took some more creative liberties, and I cut some strips or some kind of long holes in the back of the jacket. Lara fights a lot of wild animals in Rise of the Tomb Raider. I'm assuming in the other games as well. So I figured give a good like claw scratch with more blood. I mean, I'll be honest, I was looking for another excuse to put a little bit more blood in it, But I wanted to do something different with this jacket and this look that I haven't seen other people do in their cosplays. And I am apparently going for a more bloodied up Laura, which they don't really show that much in the game, but when you see the things she does, she's gotta get bloody. So there you go. Alright, so as you could see, that was a several day process. The sanding portion took the longest. I knew that was gonna be the most tedious part of it all, but it really paid off in the end. Overall, I'm very happy with how this jacket turned out, and especially for this being my true first attempt at doing something like this. Yeah, you saw the whole process. I think now I just need to show you how it turned out up close, and yes. Okay, so here is my finished Lara Croft Tomb Raider jacket. Like I said earlier, I am pretty happy with how this turned out. Obviously, it's not like the most amazing cosplay jacket, but for my first attempt, I am pleased with how it turned out. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like I said in the beginning, there is a lot to come. I still have several pieces that I have to finish. So, stay tuned. There's a lot more videos that I'm gonna be cranking out in the next month. If you want to stay up to date on all that, you can follow me on all social media at its_justcaitlin, or on Facebook is It's Just Caitlin. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!